Gradually the bar is raising
yes.
as we've done this. This is our 4th year of doing this, and I feel very, very good about this list, that we can say these are real contributions to the children's space.
What I like about this selection is that it's a crossover of very different styles, techniques, and also ages. It's a very overall collection or selection we made.
192 apps is a lot to sit through, but I'm really pleased that there have been enough good ones, I think, to really make this a good experience. A lot of publishers coming for the first time to this interactive medium often make the mistake of thinking it's just like kind of copying a book, and the sort of interactivity that's there is just like turning a page or touching something and getting a noise. And that's not what the game is. The kind of interactivity which we found in the best apps here
yes.
is much more about ideas, it's much more about immersion.
A lot of new companies, new young companies, small companies. I mean, compare the balance between the new ones and the old ones. So they are new publishers.
Yeah.
One of the titles that we picked clearly turns the whole formula upside down. And that was My Very Hungry Caterpillar.
That title for me is the standout winner.
This one started with an egg. No language, just here's an egg. And it's trusted the child to touch the egg, and then it cracked. And you touch it again, and from that point on it starts this chain of child-driven play, imagination, and interactivity where they can control the hungry caterpillar.
It's cute, it's clever, it's wordless, and it works because you can, it's very logic in what you have to do.
And it takes a classic, much loved, almost part of many people's childhood, but it reimagines that story for the digital age, and the kind of interactivity it offers is really immersive. You have to look after the caterpillar, you have to make him grow, you have to find the right food and all the conditions and so on. And it's done with stunning engineering. It's seamless, it's beautiful.
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
Yeah.
But it's also funny because when you throw the ball and you dance after the ball, it's really funny. It's like a pet.
And it's Eric Carl's
So
original.
you have also an emotional relationship.
They were true to the illustrator.
Yes.
It also crosses categories, and in fact, it's for that reason we decided to not put it in fiction or non-fiction, but just to have the one overall winner, because it really does cross both. It is based on a
life cycle
fiction book, but the innovation, I think, is actually in the interactive simulation of a caterpillar's life cycle.
May I talk about Good Night?
Of course.
I think that is a very good one because it's a good story and it addresses the scary thing for kids, like the dark, in a very nice and funny way. So I think it's good as a way of helping kids not to be afraid of dark, but also the way they have done it's good because the sound, the graphics, the art is nice. And I think one very important thing, they have tested with kids and they have kids involved in the process.
I think the studio just has a really high quality team, doesn't it? All the work they produce has this.
Also, the animations and the interactivity always worked with the story. So you actually illuminate the stars, and it helps pull the narrative along.
Yes.
Well, Warren, I have to say that in this second group there is one standout for me, and that's Spot.
Okay.
And it's an awesome piece of work, and I think anybody buying this app is just instantly drawn into it and delighted. It's really ambitious. It's taking a master illustrator and teaming him up with a really talented group of software engineers, and what's achieved is something that's true to the iPad. You couldn't do it in print.
But we did have some messages to the software engineers
Right.
specifically, because we love the content, we love the new navigation. One of the things we didn't want to find were more what Chris would call page flippers. This was zooming in, zooming out, but we wanted to zoom out a little bit as well.
There are places where you can get stuck and can't come back. There's the odd delay where things are being ready. But I think Christiane's
I
point
was
is...
probably the more critic on this because I would expect more narrative. So I really enjoy the art, I really enjoy the way it works, but I don't exactly know why I have to do all this up and down.
And they're completely disjointed
so
pieces.
I would have loved to have some scope or to have a story to work with.
What I do like about this combination of Good Night and Spots, from my viewpoint as an illustrator, is that it combines pure digital artwork with pure manual artwork. And so we have seen a lot of digital stuff, which is really mainstream and really cool. But Good Night proves that you can put a lot of emotion in digital illustration. Though it's purely pixels, it still can have emotions. While Spots proves the opposite, that manual handmade things can also be very powerful in a digital context.
Just mentioning Talking Nature as well.
Yeah.
I know you, Klaas, had some concerns about the visual quality, but the reason it's a little bit kind of pixely and rough is because it has phenomenal performance. It's another simulation. Basically, child is invited to become a kind of gardener, looking after a world, and you can create plants and animals and so on. And it's very easy to use simulation. I think Tokaboka's achievement is to take a very complicated, powerful engine but make it instantly usable.
And more in general, regarding the company, I think they are doing a good job because they are trying to do very different things.
So that leaves Forme and Gioco, my time's right.
Which was one of my favorites because of its simplicity. I like things that are vulnerable, that looks easy but or well thought. And what I liked about this app is that it plays with the interpretation of forms and shapes. Around, a circle can be as a wheel or a part of a cloud or an eye as well. So it really plays, and it's really, really very readable. It really indicates very well what you have to do. So it's very well executed.
And can be used by very young kids.
Yeah,
but also appreciated by adults.
Yes.
It makes you laugh, it's witty.
Yeah, it's very witty, yes, absolutely.
There were 10 other mentions, and each had features that we thought made them stand out, and many could have easily jumped up to the top. Give us some of the highlights of features or specifics that everyone should see and know about.
I think I was quite a proponent for Lars, about a horse, just very beautiful, and the interactions very nicely designed. I think
also from an artistic academic point of view, this is very well executed because horses are very hard to draw and animate, and this is very well done. It's poetic, it's artistic, it's really attractive. Really attractive.
Max said it best, a lot of love went into this app.
Lost Kite and Astropolo, I like this because of the, let's say, the unusual use of material in an app. It's with knitting and with paper. It's stop animation introduced into a digital environment. So it's really material, tactile material into a digital world, and that's very attractive, always works.
And in the Lost Kite also the story is nice, and it's good. It's very colorful and very nice.
And Astropolo used the microphone, and we always like to see innovative ways. In other words, you use your voice to launch an activity. There's a sound meter, and the rocket won't take off unless you raise your voice.
And in fact, these two, Snacks and Store It, are both examples of apps which really use the iPad in an interesting way. In the one case, you can actually make a kind of supermarket out of your iPad and go and play shopping and learn your numbering skills and so on.
And in Stores, you may also work combining paper, iPad and
physical and digital.
Yes, and digital, and also work in collaboration with more kids.
And Snacks is a kitchen simulator, teaching children recipes and so on.
And they're real recipes.
And they're real recipes, and you can also put your own face into the characters in the iPad.
And we've seen a lot of cooking things in the past, but very few that actually you can result into real recipes. And actually, Max cooked one of the recipes and did this while we were eating, while we were working and judging, and that is very, very accomplished.
Warren, I want to talk about that series, which we also were impressed. I'm not sure it's actually on.
We thought this one was better simply because when you zoom in on the horse jumps off the page, and then you can actually do things
really
related to it. Yeah.
I can imagine children being really excited by that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why are there no augmented reality titles on the list? Is my question.
The thing for me is that they are inevitably to some extent a gimmick.
Mm.
And do they really give you more than a storybook with things that you cut out yourself? I haven't yet seen one that does.
Because the idea is good, but the execution is not well enough.
Yeah.
So it's still in the early stage.
And the only exception to that is the Storex, because it actually is a scanner, and that's something much more engaging. So I think the message is, yeah, it's nice frosting, but it really doesn't make the cake.
Warren, what about one of the titles here for older? Actually, it's worth noting that we had relatively few titles
for the older kids.
Children.
We did like Middle School Confidential, is the comic book sort of way.
Social skills.
Yeah, particularly the zooming, the navigation is a new way to do that, as well as Boss, which was artistically gorgeous. It had a problem with the font, however.
I think treating a subject matter of that difficulty and trying to find a way to bring it to a young audience was done with great spirit, and the atmosphere of the book is very good.
They also add some informational part, like the maps or the timeline, that I think that may be useful.
I'm pleased to see an app being used to treat a subject like that. I mean, it really does show this is not just a gaming device, it's part of our culture, and very, very good.
Though the general tone is not too depressing, too dark.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about this app.
It was very emotional, but very touchy, but not very strong.
On a much brighter note, there was Sago Fairy Tales from Canada.
Yeah, that lovely, beautiful interaction, and again, you're really putting the child in control, because you can drag the fairy around and let go, and always something good happens.
Yes, there are a lot of surprises, but I think it's very engaging.
Very bold artwork. While Feed the Farm had something very tactile and attractive because of its particular style and technique.
And the idea that you can use the iPad to go through a day, from the sunrise to the sunset,
the time-lapse was
very nice.
That's what you can say also about Metamorphabet, which is in the beginning very explosive, surprising. You keep on touching because you want to see the next step. It's very inspiring, but the second time you look at it, you get the same scenario. So and also we missed the navigation.
Yeah, the navigation
that's what we missed about.
It's crazy. You can't jump. You want.
Well, generally it's not new, but it's a very attractive.
So witty.
Well, loose trance. Yeah, we liked the navigation, how you could see how you went through the book. You decide where you go and you saw it. But the story was not that good.
Yeah, we always are looking for things, innovative ways to approach the page, break the page metaphor. And this branching, following a strand of hair throughout the story that's about hair, really logical and clever. Okay, well, I'd like to thank you guys. You did a great job this year. We all...
It's been fascinating, really. Yeah.
Amazing.
And it's wonderful to be here in Bologna at the Bologna Children's Book Fair. We'll keep it a secret that we get to eat out at some of the finest restaurants in the world. Don't tell anyone. Shh.
The first caterpillar is a butterfly, There's our caterpillar.
Oh my gosh. What happened to the other caterpillar?
It grew into a butterfly.
You're kidding me.
Yeah! It's flying right there.